Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I'm going to be bold. I'm going to do it. I'm going to use the F word today. I hope you're not offended. It's very important that I do. It's impactful in your life. And the F word I'm referring to is freedom. And when I say that word, I know a lot of times it conjures a picture of politics. We're not talking about politics, or maybe it's got a little bit to do with that, but we're talking about everything related to freedom. And she's going to give us some insight on that. She is a intuitive empath, card reader, medium, amazing storyteller, and she's back with us. Janis Reed is here. And I have the freedom to welcome her in. Hello there. How are you?
Hey. I'm in an odd state of mind. I happened to watch a program between last week and this week, and it so engaged me that it took me 2 days to gorge on it. I think they call it binging. It caught my attention because of one scene that threw me back into some kind of revelry, a spot of personal curiosity. I was watching a film called The Underground, and it happens to be about a group of people trying to free themselves just before the end of the enslaved liberations. It had to do with a woman called Harriet Tubman. It had to do with family and how important that was for her. And how she, through the story, there comes a point where for the first time, she's actually able to walk a distance across an open field. And when she started, she was a slave. And when she walked across that invisible line, she was in the land of freedom. And she did a little happy dance, and, it was good for her kind of thing. But during the course of the show, my attention just kept being sucked in. And it turned out that the character that really touched me was not Harriet Tubman. I mean, she's an amazing person, was. During the course of the show, there were various visual references to some of the stuff that enslaved people had to endure. And it wasn't out picking cotton. It wasn't at the tip of a whip. It was when the woman of the house, this owner of the plantation, the widow now, she was in charge of everything, her and her boy, called in. She was upset, and she called in one of the housemaids. And the job of the housemaid was to stand there and be slapped in the face. That was her job. And all of my bells and my whistles and my memories went, oh my God, because it rang a personal bell for me. It was, that little girl was the whipping boy for the owner of the plantation. Anytime she got mad, she'd call this little child in, and she'd get slapped in the face because the owner was upset. That was her job. In these days now, 150, 170 years later, people like this are no longer have that job imposed upon them as a rule. A lot of women and people get beat up because they were smaller. It was their fault. They might have looked at somebody funny. And the small people, the more helpless people, tend to get hurt. We've talked before, a lot of my physical family comes from South Georgia. The plantation in this movie was called Macon, Georgia. That hit some really close to home vibes for me, because my family was in that general area, not too far from it. And it was easy, way too easy for me to imagine that my history involved people with strong prejudices for no good reason. When something hits my brain like this, it hits me in such a way that doors open and unlock, and information pours in, realization, connecting the dots happens, and I see things in a new way. And in this case, I saw that at some point I felt that I was the whipping girl. I was the child called in to be slapped because somebody else was upset. So I started really looking at my reality of my life. And that's been a theme. I've allowed myself to be the whipping boy for all sorts of people who were angry about something that had nothing to do with me, but they blamed me anyway. And I took the blame because I felt like if I took the blame, somebody else wouldn't have to put up with that. I'd save them. Well, it turns out that works, but nobody cares. They're just glad they didn't get smacked. The memory kept coming of being this whipping girl. Well, now here's for the big shirt. You know, we're going to stretch the fabric now and probably rip and tear a few planes of existence. But somehow or another, in the way my brain works, it's a storyteller brain, and you know, I've been touched by God. So sometimes the electrics come up in different directions with new material. But my life changed a few weeks ago as my husband passed away. And when he did, I realized he had been, as he got more ill and sicker and closer to the end, treating me as the whipping girl. He was in pain and it was my fault. This is very often a natural process as you get near death. So you really shouldn't be mean to people because they're being mean, because they're doing a lot right, as they start to pass. But as he did, and afterwards I watched this movie, I realized the connection between me having been his whipping girl and having been a whipping girl for the family I was born into this time, and maybe from a family I had born into even prior to that. There's a lot of history that I can match up and not match up, but at a certain point, it's not about history, it's about moi. And I realize I have recently become emancipated. I have only recently, at this age, a grandma, better be only a grandma, better not be a great grandma. I have won my freedom in a certain way. No one is here in my home to tell me what to do. My parents have passed also, so there's no worry about mama finding out. You know, that kept me in check most of my life, because you don't want mama to find out. And it's just strange to suddenly be a free woman and realize that I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. And how many things have I been doing as a matter of habit that I didn't necessarily want to do? But I did them because it was expected of me by someone else who is no longer here.
And you thought, and maybe it was at the time, it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I think it comes down to boundaries. You have to put up the boundaries, and we don't do that. And I can totally relate.
Mm-hmm. I bet you can.
The word divorce.
You've got a job.
Well, dealing with a divorce. I remember like 3 years ago, a friend of mine who I've known since I was 17. She's a therapist, so she's like my sage. I reach out to her. I don't even talk with her. We just text everything. And I remember early on, I said, well, I can't believe, ex's family, was mine. And, I don't have a big family. And that was like kind of my family. And it was like, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
And, and now they're gone like overnight because I
That's
don't
like
associate
an orphan.
with them.
You became an orphan on steroids.
But you know what she said to me? And I didn't even know how to back then, because it was so fresh, process it. She says, those people don't serve you anymore. And I thought, ew, that sounds dirty. Like I'm a king sitting up on a hill. Oh, you peons down there, you don't serve.
Really throw them away. Just throw them away.
Be gone with them. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, they don't. Different things have changed for whatever reason, good or bad, mostly good. It doesn't work anymore. And I want to share the word freedom. As soon as we talk about it, I will never forget this. I was married previously, way back. And I remember going to the bank and opening up my first, aside from when I was a kid, bank account, because everything was connected with my ex. Bad idea. And the woman at the bank, who I'm still friends with to the day, and we've had a lot of similar things happen to us over the years. And this is going back. This is going back many years ago. I remember looking at her at the
You're
bank.
not but 22. Don't tell on yourself. You're not that old. So go ahead.
I remember looking at her and she's like, okay, well, I can open this account for you. I'm going to need a password. Which password? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And before I could even think, she looks at me. She says, freedom. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Never forgot it.
Wow.
Never forgot it. And
And now everybody will know.
That was then. The accounts have changed.
That's a good. What is that? It's an odd thing to suddenly find out there's no more. I hate to say ball and chain because, I didn't marry him because I didn't like him. We were very fond of each other for many, many years. He was kind of like I was his two-pack and he was my Jada Pinkett Smith. We were really connected. There was no way to peel us apart.
But things change. Things change. For whatever, whether it's a health issue, I'm sorry to hear all of this, but it's a change, and it's a change for you. I just had this conversation with somebody, and it's not about me, but I want to share it because I believe things happen for a reason.
Yeah, tell me.
I was at an event yesterday. It was actually a tribute to a friend's ex, and they were very close. She remained, connected with him. Even her fiance was connected to him for many years. So they did a tribute. At the tribute, I met somebody that I have known since the mid 90s. And I'm ordained to marry people. So I actually married she and her husband. And I saw her there and she told me, yeah, we're no longer together. And I heard a little rumor that they kind of weren't getting along, but they were like the couple, like, look at them. They're just, they're good together. And things had changed. Don't even need to get into it. He had some challenges, but he moved away. And she says, now, just what you're saying. She says, I'm worrying about me now. I don't have to answer to anybody. It's a great feeling. She looks like a totally different person. Actually, I said, Joanne, you look great. Not that you didn't look great before. And they had many, many happy years together, but something changed. Things changed. So now it's a, different part of the journey. Basically kind of what you were saying. He didn't pass, but he is gone. And all of that is gone.
Yeah, I'm not tripping over him. I come home and the house doesn't talk back. The cat does her part, but she just doesn't. She doesn't make coffee. She's got thumbs, but they don't do that. Different little habitual things that I'm accustomed to. And it's just different. My kids are old, so nobody lives with me. I haven't lived alone since, oh my gosh, I don't even know what year it was. So it's very odd to suddenly be emancipated like you were. And really, he had no children. He had two brothers. They're on the West Coast. They're lovely people, but they're on the West Coast and they've got families. And my kids, they got families and lives and stuff. So it's just really me and the girls. I've got a couple of equines and a feline and me. And it's odd. It's odd to go to the grocery store and no, I don't need to buy that because, he's not going to eat that anymore. And what does freedom mean? What does it really mean when you say you're free to make choices without anyone looking over your shoulder? Are you free? Does that mean you don't charge anymore? It's almost like a new flavor in my mouth. And I'm trying to decide if it's sweet or sour or tangy or what.
I think it's going to be both. However, even when you were in your former life, there was different flavors too. And it was, one day this, one day that. Well, it's going to be the same thing, just different, but the same. And yeah, when you first look at it, it's like, well, nobody's around. And at first, sometimes that looks like, what? And then after you get used to it, it's like, whoa. this is cool. This is
It's like that
okay.
little girl in the movie, suddenly when emancipation came, if she was fortunate enough, because the movie didn't go that far, the little whipping girl that was suddenly free to just, live in her skin and not have it beaten on. All those people that it was just released from bondage. There's this feeling of release from bondage when I didn't really think of marriage as a bondage, but I guess now I see that in some ways it was. Our lives were together, and now I'm singular. So, because I'm generally work best as a partner instead of the firstborn, I'm looking back to the great maker, asking for help, helping me do the right things, because I'm not clever enough to think of some of this stuff. Gosh, it's been a week. This morning I realized, hey, there's hay up in the barn. I can put that out for the girls. They should have had hay a week ago. But my head's been in this foggy thing. What is freedom? Freedom means that nobody else is going to take care of the hay bales but me. And somehow that's freedom.
But you'll take care of it, and you'll do it on your own, and you've probably been doing it for a while anyway. And just what you said, my friend Patty, who she's no longer with this guy. He's actually in South Carolina. She's in New York. She said her connection to God, and we're not this is not about religion, but believe what you want to believe,
Yeah.
is so much stronger now. And she goes, it's me and him. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm good. Everything's fantastic.
It works for her.
It worked. And you know what? She looks like a different person. Like, I look at her, and I've known her since 1994. And I look at her and I'm like, wow, like, you look good. She goes, I know. Oh, thank you. She goes, I lost a lot of weight. I didn't even try to. I'm just on a different journey right now. And she goes, I know good things are going to happen, but it's just, you got to go through a little bit of, searching, wondering about this whole freedom thing. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means different.
Yeah, we have to put down something so that we've got room in our hand to pick up the next thing.
Yes.
And that's important. I know that part is a big deal. I went around and rearranged the furniture immediately so he couldn't find his way back. But I'm looking at the world. There's a lot of war going on in different places, countries just beating up on each other. And like in Gaza, the people are trapped. They're enslaved within those borders now. They can't escape, and bad things are coming. There's that's happening all over in each state here in our country, different places around the world. It's as if people are trying to enslave others now. So I looked it up. I looked up 7 generations and how long that took, and it goes back about 150 years. 1873. 1863 was emancipation. So 10 years after emancipation, if you go by every 100 years, because my brain works that way sometimes for fun and kicks. So 150 years ago, people were trying to find what freedom meant. The people who had held them prisoners had to understand what freedom meant. Some of those people, generations later, they're still trying to decide, when you look at a person of color, what does it mean that they're free today? Well, it doesn't mean they don't charge. It means they're just like anybody else should be, able to make their own choices. It was very strange to find a movie that hit the notes inside of me to sing the song that would create the frequency for me to open up my mind to these thoughts of freedom. Freedom. Hear Jimi Hendrix. Gosh, I'm old.
But I don't think that just happened. There's a reason you found it. I believe there's a reason for everything. And
Me too.
You found that movie to give you insight, maybe it's comfort, whatever it might be, different perspective.
Yeah, I think it's good if we let ourselves look at a situation instead of pick out beforehand what we're attracted to. to see the whole situation first. I didn't know the movie might be set somewhere near where my family sat, nor did I expect to feel the resonance of my face slinging to the side when that little child got slapped. Or figure to connect it to the freedom of widowhood. Should I look like Scarlett O'Hara now and wear black and dance with my feet and not let anybody see me dancing while I look like I'm mourning at the top? It's all so different, but it's all a transition, I see. Just like the misery, the weirdness just before giving birth a woman goes through. That's called transition because you really can't call it what it really is. It ain't comfortable. But then there's freedom. There's this revolt. The prisoner says, "No, I'm not staying in this womb any longer. I'm leaving." Got my backpack and I'm making a break for it. Mom gives birth and there's a child. People enslaved say, "No, no, no, I'm making a break for it. We're going north." When someone is suddenly thrust into freedom, that's a strange sensation. I believe it's worth noticing and taking some time to understand it a little bit so that I can appreciate it and not be afraid of it, to know that something else is on the way. I mean, God's up to something. That woman, she is always up to something with me, I swear. Something's coming up, and I'm making way for it.
Yep.
So this little bit of freedom might be just a little breath of fresh air before I get ladled on with some other change for something else. I don't know. Maybe I'll just grow flowers and pot. I don't know.
Whatever it is,
Whatever it is,
it's all good.
And this is a part of it. It's just,
and it's it feels weird. You had a change in your life. I get it. I don't want to say been there, done that, been there doing that.
It feels kind of like a roller coaster. The first time I got on a roller coaster, I don't remember the first time I did, but I remember the first time I took my little brother. He freaked out. It was a kid's roller coaster, so it only went up about 12 inches as it went around. He was freaking out. He was a little kid. We find these things that we think control us to find out that they don't control us. I've never been really enslaved in this life, but the memories of past, I brought the memories into this life. So I came in expecting to be a whipping boy, and I was. So now I'm at this place. What else can I expect? Because that didn't last forever. So do I get the fancy carriages? Do I get to move up to Harlem and wear the fancy dresses now and look beautiful with all the hotshot people? That's what happened in 1873. 7 generations ago and 7 generations hence. These are the perimeters of my life. Someone once said that no one is forgotten until no one remembers their name anymore. That's about 150 years. I mean, people might hear about you, written about you, but they didn't know you. So my freedom now, the freedom that people are fighting for today, and the freedom that will come in 150 years, it's all a part of this glorious march. It is a freedom march. Every day we wake up and we create a new day. And that's a good thing. It can be a little scary. So was putting on my first pair of high heels. Those things were tall. They must have been an inch high.
Same when I put them on.
Yeah, it's scary up there. The nosebleeds. Oh my gosh.
It was Halloween like 7 years ago. I went as a rock star groupie. I'll never do that. It's so I don't know how women do it, but anyway,
no,
so uncomfortable. Yeah.
So freedom involves sneakers, flat shoes, barefoot, moccasins. Yeah, let's put a foot down for freedom. So if I was going to share something with anybody today, it would be to enjoy this process Freedom doesn't come at the snap of a finger. It's a process, and all of it goes on up here. It's what we remember, what we imagine, what we've been told, what we've gotten away with, and what we got caught at. Freedom is a state of mind. I'm going to embrace it. I'd like all of us to. We don't have to believe like our family believed. We don't have to vote like our family always voted. When I was a kid, the South was a solid democracy. That was solid Democrats in the South. Now they're solid Republicans. They're still in the South, and they're still in the South. Freedom is what we think it is. Freedom is our ability to decide for ourselves what we want. That's freedom. Freedom is being able to respond or react as we choose to what presents to us. This ranch that I now live and, operate as a solo Donna, I could be burdened by this property, or I can be free because I live on this property. I'm going for the freedom ride. I don't think Sparkle's going to appreciate it. It's been a long time since she wore a saddle, but we may have to go on a freedom ride. Just to remember that we're not trapped. Every day I woke up for years thinking I was trapped. Every day I woke up with a screwy mindset thinking I was trapped. And it took my husband leaving me for me to realize that was my choice every day, was to feel trapped.
We all have the choice, and we can feel either way. But do you feel that during his challenges, and I'm not condoning, maybe he, might not have been in the best, it might not have treated you the best way. Okay. But do you feel that you did the right thing to make sure he was comfortable?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So now embrace that and get ready for what's coming next, which is just
what's coming next.
Good stuff. Always think, why wouldn't you want it to be good stuff?
The unknown is almost as big of a burden as the known or the expected. But I like this burden of the unknown. I've been liberated from worries that I didn't know that I didn't have. I thought I had worries. But I've been, once again, I think we keep giving opportunities. We're given opportunities to learn a lesson, the same thing over and over and over until we finally grok it. We finally, oh, that lesson was for me. Wasn't just for other people.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that everything we do, everything in life is a lesson. If you want to, if you should look at it that way. If you don't, that's up to you. My lesson here is, when we get close to this time right now, they cut us off. So,
hey, bye.
No. Anybody wants to connect with you in any way, whether it's mediumship, whether it's insight, whatever it might be, how do we find you again?
Oh, let me tell you your story. Find me online at Goddess Janis 2 at outlook.com. Go on Facebook. That's pretty easy. I'm Janis Reed, Goddess in Training. And we'll make an appointment. We'll swap numbers, and I can tell you your story. Just like that movie sparked memories for me that opened up doors. The stories that I tell tend to spark thoughts inside the listener that opens up their mind to discover the answer that they're looking for. And what's better than an answer that you think up yourself? I mean, if somebody else could give you an answer, but you might doubt them. When the answer comes from within, you're more likely to trust your decisions. That's what my stories help to do for other people, to help other people trust themselves enough to make a good decision, and oddly enough, not feel like they're forced.
Well, I believe we all have the answer inside us. It's there, but sometimes we can't hear it. Things get in the way. With your help, maybe that will be clearer, because it came clear for you. Thank you so much for your honesty and transparency today. And I got to believe that it will inspire. It will definitely inspire.
Well, I can only, I mean, now you've got Peter Frampton in my mind, and Jimi Hendrix. Go listen to some old rock and roll and keep on trucking.
Well, you know what? That's Grateful Dead. Peter Frampton, Show Me the Way. And I think you showed the way for many. And so until next time, be gone, be free.
Be free, be happy, be all you can be every moment of every day. Enjoy your life because you have one.
Yeah, because you have one. Thank you so much, Janis.
Y'all be good. Thank you for listening.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.